Hello and welcome to North Country Matters. My name is Donna Seymour. I'm a member of the St. Lawrence County League of Women Voters, one of the civic partners for our show. Today we're going to be talking about the capital improvement project at Norwood-Norfolk Central School. And my guest today is Jamie Cruikshank. Jamie is the superintendent at Norwood and an old friend of mine because he started his career at Potsdam. So when my kids were in school. So we go back a long way, don't we, Jamie?
Absolutely, and I'm so pleased that you asked me to come on.
Well, you've got a $9.1 million capital improvement project, and that is something that will go to the voters next month. But before we get into the details about that, give us a sense of how your opening for school has gone this year, because it's pretty fresh.
Absolutely. Well, we started with 1,000 students. For the last 10 years, we've maintained approximately 1,000, give or take, depending on the day. We brought in 6 new professionals and a few instructional aides. We're very excited. We brought in some veteran staff from local area schools.
You robbed? Did we robbing?
Well, right now with the shrinking pools of teacher candidates, yes.
That's true. Yes, it isn't one of the flush times, is it, with new teachers coming into the system?
No. So we felt very fortunate to really bring in some quality people, and we're pretty proud. And in fact, we're going to invite them to our board meeting tonight to meet our Board of Education, officially welcome the new members. We also have a wonderful program, if I can just take a minute of your time, that we have started with. It's a collaboration with SUNY Potsdam. Norwood-Norfolk, Brazier Falls Central, SUNY Potsdam, and St. Lawrence Lewis BOCES have partnered to address one of our district problems, and that's the teacher shortage, and specifically with the substitute teacher shortage. We're offering a fellowship to students at the graduate and upper levels of at SUNY Potsdam to bring them in as substitute teachers. And the reason we brought BOCES in is they can provide professional development for these folks, really help train these burgeoning professionals, and we'll also get aid on the reimbursement that we give to them. So we're, in fact, instead of paying our normal sub rate of $95, we'll be paying in all, after aid comes through, about $20.
Wow.
Which is fantastic, but it also gives us a chance to bring new professionals into our school to get a look at them. But it gives them the opportunity to work elbow to elbow with current professionals and receiving high quality professional development through BOCES.
And one of the things we know about people who go into the teaching field is the more experiences like that they have, the deeper their commitment. They really find out early on whether this is for them or not. And if it is, then this is a real foot in the door, isn't it?
Yes, we're proud. We're the first type of program like this in this area of the state. So we're starting small, but we're hoping it gains some steam. Good.
That's an excellent use of a lot of different resources in the area, and it's a savings to your taxpayers.
Absolutely.
So that's good. So one of the changes, thanks to New York State law, which there have been a ton of this year, was the elimination of the religious exemption for vaccinations due to the measles epidemic that was really centered here in New York State for the most part. Has this had an effect on any enrollment at your school?
Not on our enrollment. We did have a few families affected by this change. However, they're all complying with the regulation. They're on pace to have to be fully immunized, and so any student who was enrolled who had a religious exemption and attended Norwood-Norfolk is remaining at Norwood-Norfolk.
Oh, good. Yeah. Good. That's excellent. So you have a centralized building that covers pre-K through high school in your district, and that means that any renovation package that you do affects the entire school, doesn't it?
Yes,
really, the physical building, it's not like you can just sort of isolate it in one building at a time. So give us a status report on the state of your building currently and what you want to do with this capital improvement project that's coming up.
Yes, well, the state of our building is, we have a very well-maintained facility. We brought on an architectural firm this last beginning of the summer, and they've been rather busy. We wanted to have a prioritized list of things that needed to be addressed immediately and those that could go out 5 years, maybe even 10 years. So what they did, they brought back, I'd essentially say mini projects to consolidate into a larger project in 3 main areas. Safety being one. We have a number of smaller projects involving safety of the students and the visitors to our district. Efficiencies were another category that they looked at, lighting. And so we're looking at increasing efficiencies. We did that in the last project in part. We're going to finish up some of those areas. And also maintenance upgrades. We have a number of small items that just need attention. And so that's, there's actually 35 of these little mini projects combined into a larger one, $9.1 million project.
Okay, so it sounds like if some of them are relatively small projects, there won't be a lot of disruption during the school year for your students and staff. Is that correct?
Well,
Yeah.
well, yes. Some are smaller, right down to $3,000 to $5,000 range. Others are upwards of almost $2 million. The ones that will probably affect everyone include front parking lot. We looked at addressing that in the last project, and we weren't able to accomplish that. So we are looking at, we have some issues with drainage, and it is aged. So we need to replace that front parking lot, and in the meantime, look at traffic patterns in that front parking lot. We have a lot of concerns with how the buses and the cars come together at some convergence points. So making that area safe, that will affect everyone, including the community.
Right.
Because the front parking lot is where everyone comes through. Sidewalks will be another one. Our sidewalks have degraded a little bit in the front of the school particularly. We did have, in the last project, we implemented a ramp system instead of stairs for our entrance to the high school. And when we were doing that, we looked at issues with snow removal on a long ramp. And so we decided to utilize the hot water that we heat our school with and run it through the sidewalk, heat the sidewalk. So that was, obviously the main concern was addressed with keeping snow off of it. But a secondary issue that came up, which was a tremendous benefit, was keeping salt and sand out of our schools.
Right.
The amount of time our custodians place in cleaning the entryways is extraordinary during the winter, the sloppy winter months. So we're looking at doing that in front of the other 2 building entrances and possibly the entire sidewalk, depending on how the costs lay out. But definitely the sidewalks need to be upgraded. They're pocked fairly severely. So yeah, there's a number of safety issues. We're looking at making our school a harder target. That's the official phrase for it, and putting the break-resistant glass and the film over the glass so that people cannot come in if we don't want them to come in.
Right. And unfortunately, that is just a fact of life for schools these days, isn't it? That you have to be thinking along those lines.
Unfortunately, yes, it is. And so we have our school is very secure. We have only 2 entrances during the school day that people can come in. And it's through a vestibule that's locked. You have to be buzzed in. However, we want to ensure the safety of our students.
Well, what a number of districts have gone to is a school resource officer, which is having someone in the building who can also do some teaching and some interfacing with that. Is that something that you have thought about? A lot of districts around you have moved in that direction. Yes,
we've put a lot of thought into that, and that was a high consideration during this last budget process. Our board, when we analyzed the response time, we have 2 local police departments that are very present with the village of Norwood and the town of Norfolk. We also have the county who's there daily. But most people don't realize we have a state trooper station right in Norfolk. So we have officers in and out of the building all day. With that said, when we were analyzing this, we looked at counselor to student ratios too. Because while many schools are putting SROs in, 99.9% of their time is not necessarily as a protective agent, but as a counseling agent and another familiar face. So Norwood-Norfolk had a rather high ratio of counselors to students. So we needed to address that first. And we brought on a school social worker this year. We're very excited to hopefully be able to have more connections with kids lessen the likelihood of an issue that needed police presence. But that is a topic that the board has been interested in. We've put a lot of time into analyzing that, and as a first step, we want to address the ratio of counselors first.
Well, one of the things that we know about a real deficit in the North Country is a lack of mental health services and counseling services. There are just not that many out there. So what schools can do on a preventative basis inside the building and inside the curriculum has a big effect in the community outside, doesn't it?
Tremendous, tremendous. And having a social worker with a skill set to work with not just the children, but the families as well,
Right.
helping with resources and guiding even our own school professionals into how to best support our families.
Right, right, and it's an ongoing project, that's for sure. So we've talked a little bit about the project, and we've talked a little bit about how the things that you're going to be doing in it. But now we have to talk about the important stuff. This is how do we pay for it? Because of course, people see $9.1 million price tag, and they get a little nervous, don't they?
Oh yeah, and they should. It's a large dollar amount. Fortunately, Norwood-Norfolk has an aid ratio of 98%. So for every dollar we do spend, the state reimburses us 98 cents. With that said, we also have a $1 million capital reserve fund that we can utilize here. So the 9.1 million will not, that all won't go out to bond. We will fund 2% of the project through that capital fund and break down the principal that we borrow with the rest of that capital fund. So with the 98% aid, we can schedule our payments and the aid payments at the same time. And in fact, we utilize a company called Fiscal Advisors that tracks this out for us. It's very similar to the amortization schedule that a car payment has. You can see your payments through time. We have that in combination with the aid payments through time, and it has zero tax effect on our community because of the aid payments being considerable with 98%.
So really, your district is in many ways, it's a poor district because you don't
Correct.
have a lot of property value that you can tap for regular taxes, do you?
No,
So,
that's right.
So that's, and of course, you know, every year the state budget has to wrestle with education aid and the funding formulas, and they're pretty complex, aren't they?
They're very complex, and Norwood-Norfolk depends on roughly 70% state aid for our revenue. The one thing that is always assured from the state does not want their 700 plus districts to go into disrepair. So they fully fund the capital reserve payments, and they do that every year. So when we look at doing a capital project, we don't necessarily look at that as impacting taxes. We look at that as accessing tax money that we pay in anyways. So we haven't had a project for a few years. 2 years ago we ended a large project, and so now we're going to access that fund again that we've been paying for.
So one of the pieces of this is you're asking voters to authorize to create a new 10-year capital reserve fund of $1.5 million for future projects.
Correct.
Explain a little bit about how that works. It's like a bank account in many ways, isn't it?
A bank account with strings attached.
Right.
So when we start a capital reserve, there's, depending on what type of reserve it is, in this case it's capital, you can only spend it with voter permission and only spend it with voter permission for a capital expense. So for a capital project down the road. So by starting a new one, and it's good for 10 years, we are ensuring that future projects won't have a negative impact on the taxpayers also. Now when we start that project, we're not able to fund it right now, but as long as we have it, as we are able, we can put money into this reserve fund, and by the time the next project comes along, have a healthy reserve fund to minimize any impact on taxes.
Okay, good. So one of the things that you're going to be doing is finding ways to inform your voters before the vote about this thing. And obviously, coming on North Carter Matters is one of those
Yes.
techniques. So what are your other plans for making sure that the voters understand what's going on before you ask them to come in?
Absolutely. Well, we have a board meeting tonight, and of course, I'll update our board tonight. But I have advertised a presentation to the community on October 5th, I believe.
15th is what it says. What was said in the, it's what the media said.
Okay, on October 15th is a board meeting.
Yeah.
And we'll have a hearing that night. A week before that,
Okay.
we'll also have a presentation on the 8th. So, so the public can certainly come to those formal meetings. I'm also speaking at a few different community organizations, such as the Lions. I'll be at their next, I believe it's October 1st meeting. And we'll have an informational flyer that will be available and being publicized. I also send out a weekly email to the community, and we'll have plenty of information in that as well.
So do you have a robust social media presence that for your school district in terms of being able to get information out to people?
Well, it's burgeoning.
Okay.
We have some very visited Facebook pages. We try to keep our Facebook pages more celebrating students than disseminating information. However, we will utilize those pages for this project. But yeah, I try to get out as much in the social media presence as possible, especially to celebrate what we're doing at Norwood-Norfolk.
Right. So talk to us a little bit, Jamie, about when and where the vote is and who is eligible to vote in your district.
Yeah, so that's a great question. The vote will be on the 22nd, and it will be from 12:30 to 8:30. District residents, if they're living in the district, pretty much from today on, they'll be able to vote on this project. I believe it's 30 days.
And the vote itself takes place in what section of the school?
Yes, so it's in the district boardroom. There'll be signs. So the district
The
boardroom.
main parking lot, the famous main parking
Yeah,
lot,
absolutely,
right?
and the access to that will be between where the high school entrance is and the bus garage.
Okay. So, Jamie, one of the things that a lot of districts have been struggling with lately, you had mentioned that your district has stayed pretty stable at 1,000 students for the last 10 years, but a lot of them are looking down the road and seeing sort of collapsing numbers in rural school districts. Are you able to provide the programming with 1,000 students that you want to be able to provide, or are you having to do a lot of work trying to figure out how to leverage other schools to get numbers for certain kinds of things, maybe special programs in the high school especially?
Yeah. That's a great question, and it's something all of the North Country rural schools deal with. We have a very robust offering of advanced placement and college credit-bearing courses. We're big enough to be able to do that. However, we also have a distance learning classroom, and we do a lot of collaborative distance learning through Hudson Valley, Hall Smiths, North Country Community, whatever. If there's an opportunity for our students for variations in coursework, we'll explore that. Every year in our district board of ed goals, we have it's stipulated that we are looking for continued opportunities for our kids to expand our program, especially at the high school level.
And one of the things that's true about Norwood-Norfolk, like Potsdam, is that you're very closely placed to the BOCES Center, so it's very easy for your kids to get to BOCES and to take advantage of those programs. In particular, I'm going to be having Steve Todd, who used to be at this BOCES and is now the superintendent down at the Jeff Lewis BOCES. He's going to be coming in to talk to us a little later in this semester about career development kinds of programming and the sort of hands-on things that people are really looking for now. I mean, we had a tremendous push for many years about college education, but we didn't do what we needed to do for the kind of hands-on training that's out there. So are your kids able to take advantage of those programs?
Absolutely. We have roughly 50% of our juniors and seniors attend Seaway Tech for career and tech education. And I would say that while there has been a concentration on career development at the high school level, and college readiness, I'm sorry, at the high school level, our regional BOCES has done an excellent job in staying abreast with the current trends in career and tech ed. So it's not what many of us would remember as going to the local career centers for training. They offer some very robust programs and with a lot of college credit bearing courses there as well. So I'm glad District Superintendent Todd will be there,
come in, yeah.
because he's always been an advocate for CTE.
Well, and it's something that we were doing a project over the weekend, and we went down to a local hardware store, and the bag that came in talked about literally had on the advertising on the bag was how many of these job openings are not going to be able to be filled unless people go into these careers. So it certainly seems to be like the time to make sure that we give those kinds of programs a fresh look, because as you say, a lot of people have very negative connotations about that based on very old stereotypes, and that's really changed.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And we are very fortunate that Seaway Tech is right just outside the village of Norwood, so it's very close proximity.
It is. So as we wrap up, Jamie, anything you want your folks in Norwood-Norfolk to be thinking about as they're getting ready to come in and vote on this project?
Yes, thanks for that opening. I'm very excited about this project. It is going to be addressing a lot of the efficiencies that we can do better with, especially lighting. But the safety aspect is paramount. And some of the smaller mini projects, as I mentioned them, they're just simple maintenance and upgrades that we need to do. But you know, the voters should also know that our Board of Ed really deserves a huge kudos. And I don't just say that because they're my Board of Education. They made a decision last month that was unusual. This past spring, our voters approved a 1.29% increase to our tax levy. As we closed the books out on the 18-19 school year, we had some revenues that were unintended, that we didn't predict that they'd be coming in particular with revenue for hosting so many foster families in the district. And we also had some expenses that were less than what we had predicted. So we ended the year in a financial position that we did not need the increase in that tax levy. So our board made a resolution not to accept the approved increase in the tax levy. So we're essentially looking at a 0% increase for taxes for this school year. You've worked with school boards for many years. That's not a typical response from a school, but I think it speaks to the underlying belief that our board has, in that they are stewards of the public trust, and this is a wonderful sentiment of that trust. They want to maintain that trust.
And they also, it's a good realization of the financial picture that everybody in the district is living with, and that when you can give a little bit back like that, it's going to pay off down the road in goodwill many times over, isn't it?
Well, we enjoy the support from the community, whether it's on a budget vote, hopefully a capital project vote, or just a participation in coming to basketball games and soccer games and hockey games. It's gearing up for that now too, and we appreciate that. But certainly, if we tax when it's necessary, and we don't want to if we don't have to. And
these days, schools are a center of a community, and in this case, it's a center of two communities and the rural areas that surround it. And you really do have a lot to offer with the inside the district in terms of not only just educating students, but giving them lots of other opportunities and bringing the community in to take advantage of the school facilities that they have paid for.
Absolutely. So we truly enjoy that trust, and I thought that resolution spoke volumes.
It does, it absolutely does, and you're quite right, kudos to them. So, well, Jamie, thank you for coming in today, and this capital improvement project is obviously one that you've spent a lot of time thinking about, the board has been thinking about it, and there's no fluff in this. These are all things you need to do, and it will keep the physical space what it needs to be in order for education to take place, right?
Correct. It is just what our architects have pointed out, that either must be done because they're beginning to hit end of life, or that they will be very soon hitting an end of life. So no, there's no fluff. This is just to continue to maintain our facilities.
Right. Well, thank you for coming in, and we'll look forward to a successful vote.
Fantastic,
Thank you.
fantastic, thank you.
So these conversations are a production of North Country Matters, which is filmed here in the Fred W. Cleveland Computer Center of the Potsdam Public Library. This show is a civic collaboration between the League of Women Voters of St. Lawrence County and the Potsdam Public Library. Until next time, remember, our North Country matters. Thank you.